Okay, hi everyone. This is Joe Massaro with Yahweh Sisterhood Book Club, and we're excited that you're with us today. We are a book club that not only gets to read a book, but we get to meet the author as well. So we're very excited to have Jim Watkins with us today.
My pleasure. Good to be with you, Joe.
Now, what you don't know, I always like to talk about some of the issues that happen when we're filming or whatever. We had some technical issues we had to stop, and that is part of what this is all about. So we're grateful that we're back on. I have not a clue what happened to my internet, but it went down. So um, let me just say that Jim is an award-winning author of over 20 books and 2,000 articles. That's a lot of articles.
Actually, it's 2,500 now, but I
It's
stopped
20.
counting.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's a lot. I know what I go through to write one. And you've spoken across the United States and overseas. You've served as an editor and editorial director at Wesleyan Publishing House, an editor with American Bible Society,
Mhm.
and taught writing at Taylor University for 15 years. And let me just say that that is how I actually met you at Taylor University
Mhm.
at the Writers Conference. And you were so incredibly gracious. I honestly, I kind of cornered you. And I started asking you some questions, and you were so wonderful. And that's one of the things I love about writers and authors is that they give back so much of their
True.
time to other people. And I was just sharing that with another author friend the other day, and it's one of the things I said to her is that I appreciate the fact that you certainly pay it forward, and that is definitely you as well.
Oh, well, thank you. My pleasure.
So we met at Taylor University, like I said, this year. It's July 24th and 25th, and and you're the one of the keynote speakers. But maybe you could share a little bit about this writers conference and the difference this year in what actually is
Right.
going to happen.
This will be our fourth conference. We usually meet on the campus at Upland, Indiana, but thanks to COVID, we're going virtual this year. But I think one of the great things about conferences is the networking. And I've told people the three secrets to becoming published are network, network, and network.
Mm.
And so we'll still have those opportunities for you. There'll be keynotes, seminars, and then there's going to actually be Zoom allows you to go into different rooms. And so we will allow you to meet with editors and agents in those rooms. And so we're hoping it'll be a great conference. You don't have to pack, you don't have to travel, you don't have to sleep in a dorm room. This may be an even better way to do it, but we're looking forward to having you with us.
Yeah, and I love the fact that it's so affordable as well.
Yes, yeah, I think it's the most economical conference in the country, and want to thank Taylor University for helping with that. I
Yes.
love their program. It's called the Professional Writers Conference because Taylor has a major called Professional Writing, and so you don't have to be a professional to come. We have things for beginners, but the whole idea is to get your writing into print. Some conferences, some college programs are more theoretical, and uh, Taylor has just done a really great job at really emphasizing getting their students into print. One student, I think it was her junior year, had a 3-book deal with a book publisher,
Wow.
and they're always submitting their articles to magazines, writing book proposals while they're in class at Taylor. So it's a great program, and we wanted to share some of it with you. So we'd love to have you join us.
So I think they would just have to go to Taylor University's Professional Writers Conference. I think that will
Just
get them,
Google that, and it will
yes,
take you right there.
and it'll get you there. And I so encourage you. You still have weeks yet before it's probably close to a month or more before it's going to start. I
Just
remember the first
exactly a
conference
month,
I
yeah.
went to. Yeah, the first conference I went to, I went all by myself, and I was really nervous about going.
Oh yeah.
But I have to tell you that the people that that you meet,
Uh-huh.
the instructors, the editors, the everybody is just so incredibly wonderful, and you will walk away from this conference and you will make, sometimes lifetime friends,
Hmm.
and support for what you're doing. I have, people that are like my sounding board, with ideas and things like that. So it is really, I just encourage you to go. I really do.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I know us writers are basically introverts, but if you can just for a few days overcome that
yeah,
and pretend that you're an extrovert, it'll be well worth it. And obviously, editors and agents are real live people. We love meeting writers. That's why we're in this business. And so, yeah, I think you'll find us friendly and not too intimidating. So
well, I'm going to be hopefully submitting something on my children's book, so I'm very
great,
excited about it.
very good, very good.
Okay, so let's just go before we get into your book, which, by the way, is Overcoming Fear and Worry. It's part of Our Daily Bread.
Right.
Yes. So I
Yeah,
definitely
if
want to
you
get that
enjoy
out
those
there.
devotionals, it's from the people that bring you our daily bread. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
a real short little book too. It's really not that fat. I think it's about 100 pages, but they're called pocketbooks, and they're just real concise and practical material for you. So
Yeah, I really thought this book was so timely right now as well.
it
So
is. Yeah,
yeah.
it came out a year ago, but yeah, it's definitely relevant to where we're
Yes,
living right now.
yes, I know it spoke a great deal into my own life as well.
Oh,
So,
glad to hear that.
so before we get into that, why don't we talk a little bit about you and how did you become a writer, and where was your life, and how did you
Yeah.
make that decision?
Actually started writing about second grade. I would get those really nice hardcover like journal books from
Yes.
uh, at that time it was called stationery stores, but like Home Depot or something like that, or Office Depot or something like that. And so I write my stories in there, write nonfiction books. And then in junior high, I wrote a play for a school production. And then in high school, I really got bit with the journalism bug.
Hmm.
And so my sophomore, junior, and senior years, I wrote for the school paper. I became the editor my senior year.
Wow.
And then, with some very providential circumstances, ended up in the youth department in our denomination as a editor for their teen magazine. And being an introvert, it's been a wonderful way to share my thoughts. My tagline, as you can see, the little sign back here, is hope and humor.
Hmm.
So for an introvert, it's been a great way to get that hope and humor out there and to share some thoughts I think God's given me to help people live a successful and positive life. So I've been writing full time now since 1982
Wow.
and just absolutely love it. So I would encourage anyone that you've got that little bit of ink in your veins to pursue it and explore genres. I think I've written about everything except romance novels, devotionals, scripts, lyrics, short stories. What I do best with is nonfiction with a lot of humor. And
Hmm.
so you'll find in Overcoming Fear and Worry, um, it, it's light, but it's got deep content. So
Hmm.
it's simple without being simplistic. It's deep without being obtuse. So hopefully it's a good blend of.
I definitely feel that it is, yes.
Oh,
And
great! Thanks,
one
thanks,
of
Jeff.
the things I've learned about you by reading some of the stuff that you've written is that you do have a sense of humor.
Oh, thank you.
And if you're somebody like me, I never wrote when I was a child. My life did not follow along at all, anything like yours. I just really believed that this is what God was calling me to do in my later years. And so, is it scary? Yes.
Yeah, I
um,
just finished a book for Tyndale House called "If You're Not Dead, You're Not Done," and it's about living a purposeful, positive life in your older years. And one of the chapters is just the numerous people who had a second career, a very successful career, after they retired. Colonel Sanders and
mhm,
Grandma Moses and an Olympic champion at 77 years old. He was a marksman. So yeah, a lot of people do find it later in life, and it's never too late. So
Yeah, I definitely want to get that book. So let me know when it's coming out.
September of 2021. So
Okay. All right. Well,
yeah.
I want to do this again so we can talk about that book next
Oh,
year.
that'll be fun. It was a great book to write.
So let's go to your book again. It's Our Daily Bread. It's a guide to everyday life. That's what. So if everybody is familiar, probably with Our Daily Bread, it's overcoming fear and worry.
Mhm.
And what I love is I was laughing in the very beginning because you were talking about civil defense drills, and I can remember civil defense drills.
I know. That's the source of all of our deep-seated psychoses, I think.
Oh yes, oh yes. You were.
It really was. Seriously, it was a fearful time. And I think every generation has had that. You know, you had World War II, then we had the Cold War,
Mhm.
uh, terrorism, and now our kids today, you know, COVID, domestic terrorism. It seems like we've always been in a fearful generation. So I think this book is um, really relevant, particularly for today and whatever crisis is coming up in the next decade.
True, so true. And you talk about how and you reference the Bible throughout the entire book,
Mhm.
and you mentioned some of the people that are some of my absolute favorite people in the Bible. But let's go to Adam first, and you talk about how he was afraid. So fear was there right at the very beginning.
Right. That was more of a fear of God. And one of the things that I've tried to stress in the Bible or in the book is that I think fear, let me just make a distinction between fear and worry. First of all, I'll
Yes.
do it in the book.
Yep.
Fear is when you see a grizzly bear as you're out walking and your body goes into fight or flight mode. And we are indeed fearfully and wonderfully made. I mean, the adrenaline starts pumping, your blood starts coagulating. So if you get swiped by the bear, you're not going to bleed to death. Digestion stops, all the blood goes to the muscles. It's just amazing, and it's a biological. Fear is biological. It's
Yes.
something we have no control over. If we see a bear in our path, we're going to have fear. Worry, I make the point, is a choice that you make. And I think that's why Jesus can say, don't worry, that it is a decision. And
Hmm.
one of the reasons I tried to point out in the book is why we worry is number one, we don't know that God really loves us. We don't really believe that God loves us unconditionally and just how intense his love is. And then secondly, we doubt his power to intervene in our situations. And my wife and I have been through some financial struggles. We've had to hock a car to pay bills. We've had to take out second mortgages. There have been a lot of things that have not been good, but I make the point that God is able to work all those for our good. He's trying to conform us into the image of his son. But his basic motivation is love for us and wanting us to grow to love him and become more and more like him. So fear, uh, if you're fear of heights, fear of bears, those things keep us alive and they're biological and they're hardwired into us. But we do have the choice on worry. And that's the point I want to make in the book is that if I really, truly believe that I am unconditionally loved and that God is infinitely powerful and is working all these things for my good, I don't have to worry. Um, so that's the whole book right there.
Yeah, I was just going to say you just answered a whole bunch of my questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got
Oh
ahead of
no,
you.
no, no, that's great. And you also say that worry takes our peace away as well.
Oh, it does. It
Yeah.
does. It takes away the joy of today. It takes away anticipation of tomorrow. And so, and also, I've got a chapter in there how it affects our bodies.
Yes.
If we live in a constant state of worry and stress, it's going to take years off of your life. It affects your digestion. There are even some studies that claim that fear or worry, constant worry, may have something to do with our propensity to cancer. I mean, there's some scary medical studies of what worry does to a body.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason to try to get a hold of that and trust God to keep from worrying. There's some physical advantages there.
Yeah, I think, and I think you mentioned it's in, I know it's in Matthew, I think chapter 6, about how Jesus is talking about, and I'll paraphrase it, that
Hmm.
worry will not add a single hour to our life. So
Right.
basically, we're subtracting time from our,
Exactly.
like you're saying, we're taking
Exactly.
it away. And
Right.
I will be the first one to say that, I have lived a life of worry, and worry sometimes of what other people may think of you as well.
Right. Yeah. Worry comes in so many different forms. It could be physical, social, mental, spiritual. If you're not sure that God indeed loves you and that your salvation is secure, yeah, there's must be 50 ways to worry.
Yeah,
So,
there's a whole nother book right there.
yeah.
I think about, my own life, and thinking about the things that you're talking about, how not trusting God, and loving
Hmm.
God, and knowing that He has the very best in mind for us. It took me forever to, and I'm so grateful that I believe this today with all my heart. It took me forever to believe that God truly loved me for who I
Hmm.
am.
Hmm.
And
True.
recognizing that, because I did not grow up in faith. I knew God, I knew Jesus, but I didn't know
Hmm.
what it was to really have that type of relationship with Him.
Right. Right.
And I believe the things that we have gone through, that God will use them today
Hmm.
for His glory.
Exactly.
Yes. And so I think that we all have this story, this journey that we go through, and hopefully we find Jesus in there, because I will tell you, I say this over and over, because my life was searching for love in all the wrong places,
Oh.
and I lived in that fear, that
Mhm.
anxiety, that worry. And I think about my life today, and how I feel like I had this heavy backpack that I was carrying around for a good portion of my life,
Mhm.
and how I can stand up today and be free. It doesn't mean I don't worry at times. It doesn't, all of those things, we're human. But I
Right.
feel like I'm such a lighter person today, in my spirit, in my heart, in my mind, that
Right.
I'm so grateful to God, because that's what, I mean, you're talking about this, I don't want to live my life under oppression.
Right.
And I want to be happy. Paul talks about, in prison, he talks about, living, joy. He's in prison and he's talking
Yes.
about joy. It's
Exactly.
like, yes, and I'm like, if Paul can be in prison and talk about that kind of joy,
Mhm.
that's what I want. I
Yeah.
want that kind of joy.
I not only make the distinction between fear and worry, but knowing something and feeling something,
Mhm.
because what we know and what we feel are often two different things. I remember I always used to watch The Lone Ranger. It came out Saturday at 11 o'clock. And inevitably, Lone Ranger and Tonto are they're tied up in a mine, and there's a keg of dynamite, and the Kavanaugh gang is outside with their guns aimed at the opening. And, I just know that the Lone Ranger and Tonto are going to be killed. So I'd be hiding under the coffee table. My mom would stick the Reader's Digest in at me. Look, Jim, Lone Ranger's on next week, 11 o'clock, same time. He will get out of there. I can't see how we can do that. The Lone Ranger will be on next week. Um, and that's kind of my life. I can know something. I know that God loves me. I know that He's got the power, but my emotions don't always follow that.
Yes.
And one point I make in the book, and I really stress it in this book I just wrote for Tyndall House, is our emotions are real, but they're not reality.
Mm.
And to make that distinction, yes, I feel this, but I know in my soul, in my heart of hearts, that God does love me. He is working this for my good, but my emotions are telling me something else. So I think sometimes, there's a danger of denying our emotions, but there's also a danger of deifying our emotions.
Mm.
And so it's a matter of recognizing, yes, I feel absolute terror about the situations coming up, but I know that God's got this. And so I talk about that too, that, it's the fear and worry dichotomy, and also that I know this and I feel this. And I think that's why Paul could have joy in prison. Happiness comes and goes, but joy is that deep down assurance that I am loved and that God is in control. And no matter what happens in this crazy world, whether it's COVID or racial unrest or whatever comes next, God is still in control. And I can know that, even though the feelings may tell me something different. So
Yes.
it's a challenge. It's really hard work to
It is.
trust. Um,
Yeah, you talk about, you use an example of a toddler on the edge of a swimming pool.
mhm.
Maybe you could share a little bit about that.
Sure. My I babysat my granddaughters since they were day they were born. That's the nice thing about being a writer; you can schedule your time, and so they really trusted Papa, and they would be diving off dressers and off the edge of the pool because they knew that Papa really loved them. My other set of grandkids live about an hour and a half away, and they don't know me that well. So one day, my oldest grandson is hanging from the monkey bars, and he's just absolutely terrified. And I said, "Let go! I'll catch you! I'll catch you!" I don't know. I don't know. I said, "Do you trust me?" I don't know. I don't know. Um, and sometimes I think we're that way with God. Do I know Him well enough that I know His heart, that I know He has my best interests, or He may just drop me? Um, so I think the more we become intimate with God and know Him, we know His heart, know His love, then it's easy to jump off into His arms. I also mentioned in the book, when Paul says, cast your anxieties on Him,
Mm-hmm.
the Greek word is actually to heave or to throw, or like a shot put. You throw that thing. I remember once went through some financial issues. I'm just lying wide awake in bed, and I took my hands. I said, "Okay, God, here's my worry," and I just chucked them as far as I could towards the bedroom door. And just by doing that little physical thing, it was like it spoke to my intellect as well as my emotions that I did. I had cast my cares on Him, and we're only able to do that when we really know Him. So part of that overcoming worry is just to realize, again, sound like a stuck record, but God loves me. God's in control. He's got this worked out. Um, and I'm not promised in this life to succeed, but I am promised to get safely to heaven. So, there are going to be setbacks, there are going to be things that go wrong, but I'm still on that path to becoming more and more like Christ through whatever happens to me, and I know my destination. And so I actually do a lot less worrying now. I think have become to a point where Paul talks about being content, and that whatever happens, I know He's got it. So,
Amen. That's all I can say is amen. Because it's so true.
mhm,
Knowing my own life, like I said earlier, growing up, and I was fearful as a child. I was in depression as a child. That I had a really tough childhood,
mhm,
and it took me, who is this Jesus? Who is this
mhm,
God that people are talking about? I didn't have any idea. I knew the names, but
mhm,
I didn't know what this relationship was to have. And it took me a period of time to
right,
believe that I am worthy of that kind of love. And
exactly,
somebody who may be listening, for me, and for God, certainly, it doesn't, I've made mistakes in my life. There's no question about it. And I have made, some pretty big mistakes in my life. And if you watch a few of the other videos that we've done talking about different things, I had an abortion when I was, younger, and the next year I had a son that died, and I thought that God punished me.
yeah, yeah,
And so I so believe that the God that we're talking about loves me so much
uh-huh, uh-huh,
And
Yeah, I think that's an important point too. That if we grew up with father wounds and had a father that wasn't an example of unconditional love,
yep,
it's really hard. I opened one chapter of my book with a young person while I was youth pastor. We were talking about God's love and God is our father. And he said, well, if God's my father, I hate his guts, because his father in the middle of winter would throw him out of the house naked and hose him down. I mean, just brutal abuse.
yes,
And I said, well, who's your favorite TV dad? He says, oh, I guess Andy Griffith. I said, well, God is Andy Griffith times infinity.
mm,
That So when I say father, I want you to think of Andy Griffith rather than your dad.
yeah,
And it took him a while to get to that point, but he finally got to the point of, yes, I have a horrible um, image of fatherhood, but I'm learning a father who truly loves me unconditionally. So
yeah.
it's a long struggle if you've got that baggage to carry around with you.
Yeah, and I obviously had a lot of baggage, but I
Mm.
will tell you this, that, and other people have baggage, but I guess for me, again, I will say this because I just know where my life is today.
Uh-huh.
And I just know the joy and the peace and the love that I have today. And
Right.
it doesn't mean that I don't worry, it doesn't mean that, bad things, can happen. Um, but it's how I perceive things today, the
Uh-huh.
joy that I have, the trust that I have, and trust is a big issue. I know because I didn't know who to trust. And so trust is, knowing that he is full of so much love that we cannot, like you're talking about, the God that we can't even begin to imagine how much love and how much hope that we have in him. So I just encourage you to connect with a church, connect with me, connect with Jim, um, because that's the starting point.
Right. Yeah, and you can go to my website, jameswatkins.com, and it's just got a ton of resources there, free
Yes.
book excerpts, and just a lot of encouragement. Yeah, I had a rough childhood. I've got clinical depression, and so I think I'm really honest and vulnerable with people, and hopefully, uh, I just posted on my Facebook today the wonderful passage in 2 Corinthians 1 where it talks about that we experience the comfort of the God who comforts, and that we can comfort those with the comfort we ourselves have received. And so that's my big passion, is allowing what I've gone through and what you've gone through, Joe, to comfort other people, and to be a source of hope and humor. So sounds like we're on the same page.
Yeah, and you do it so beautifully. I so recommend you go to his website because there is just so much information there. Um, and you also talk about overcoming, I think it's overcoming steps in your book as well. You give these
Hmm.
little nuggets at the end of each chapter.
Yes, yes. At
Yeah,
the end of each paper, there's sort of an application or how to put this into practice. Yeah.
yes.
I used to speak full time at youth camps and adult conferences, and people would always come and say, "Well, that was such a practical message." I thought, "Well, what other kind of message is there?" I mean, so I try to be very, very practical, and I've got a degree in theology, but don't hold that against me. I try to write in a way that's very, very practical, easy to
Mhm.
understand, and so I think you will find hope and humor at jameswatkins.com.
JamesWatkins.com. Anything else you want to share about your book or what you're working on?
Or another book that two books actually. Um, this one's called God I Don't Understand. It's based on the Psalms of Asaph, who was the music director for David and Solomon. He watched Israel um, just become incredibly successful under David, and then watched it totally destroyed under Solomon and his two sons. And he has lots of questions. And the third question, as we talk about in God I Don't Understand, is struggling with unanswered prayer, unfulfilled promises, and unpunished evil. So
Mm,
again, if you're dealing with some tough issues, this might be helpful. And then my absolutely favorite book in the world is Thomas A. Kempis's Imitation of Christ.
yes.
But it's very archaic language, and so I had the privilege of putting this in modern language, making it into a devotional. There's 90 devotionals arranged by topics. But the Imitation of Christ is, other than the Bible, is probably the book that really changed my life. So it's really a privilege to be able to create this devotional based on that. And Imitation of Christ, I would highly recommend that too. So
I definitely want to get that too.
Yeah, it was written, actually it's celebrating its 600th birthday this year, written in 1420.
Wow.
But it has been the second best-selling book other than the Bible. And it's because it is so profound in how we become more like Jesus. So I would get your choice of which of my books to buy. I'd go with this one.
Well, if that's one thing that I want to do in my lifetime is to become more like Jesus.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about you personally. So what, beyond your own books and things that you're reading, do you have any books that you're reading right now, or any authors that you like?
I just finished the If You're Not Dead, You're Not Done. So I didn't do a lot of outside reading. I've got set up on my on my computer about 6 different devotionals I read every day. So I love Oswald Chambers, My
Yes.
Utmost for His Highest. I read that daily. A.B. Simpson, who was the founder of the Christian Missionary Alliance, very profound writer. I read him every day. He has a devotional. And this might be my feminine side or something, but I do like Ann Voskamp. I like her Facebook. I don't like the long emotional stories, but I like her little pithy bits of inspiration. And then Lisa Turkhurst. I don't know.
Yep. Lisa Turkhurst.
Anyway, Turkhurst. Okay.
Yep.
I really enjoy her writing as well. So those are things I read almost on a daily basis.
I will add that I have Smith Wigglesworth. That I read his devotion. That's an older one.
Okay.
And, Carol.
I don't read a lot of fiction, but I just read one, What Mama Taught by Cindy Sproles. That might be a great one for your book club.
Okay.
Just came out. It's called What Mama Taught by Cindy Sproles. It's a part of her Appalachian series, and she just has a real gift for dialogue. It's got a lot of action and adventure. That's why I like it. About them. So it's got it's got romance, it's got adventure, it's got a powerful plot, has a really subtle but profound spiritual message through it. So Cindy Sproles, What Mama Taught. It's the novel I just finished last month, I guess it was.
I'm definitely going to get that.
Yeah, I would recommend it.
So what, I guess as an ending question, when you are reading, people like to read in different places. Is there a special place you like to read? I was sharing this earlier, what do you like to drink when you are reading? Any special things like that?
Yeah, I'm also OCD, so I have my morning ritual that I really stick to, but it's my it's a recliner out in the living room. I like my caffeine cold, and so I drink iced tea in the morning, copious amounts of it. And then also, there you go.
I have iced tea.
And then dark chocolate covered coffee beans. That's my treat throughout the day. So that keeps me alert. And so, yeah, I just love to sit in my recliner and have my time alone with God, read the Bible, and then go through those 5 or 6 devotionals. I've got to do that for the first hour of my day, or the rest of the day is just all wonky. It just doesn't go well. So I think getting a good perspective from God's point of view helps the rest of the day go so well. So that's how I start my day.
Well, I will tell you that about 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago, I interviewed Janet McHenry, who wrote a book called Prayer Walk.
Ah, okay.
And so I had made a commitment before that from the day that I was going to prayer walk every day, take a 30-day challenge.
Wow.
One, for health reasons, to get myself feeling better. As
Hmm.
you know, I had 2 surgeries this year.
Right.
And 2, to be praying for not only, myself, my family, friends, but to be praying for my community, to be praying for our president, our country. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. And I'm, focusing on that for the 30 days. I'm on day 15 today.
Great. Great.
So that's kind of how like I start out my days, and I'm really loving that. And
Great.
God has been speaking a lot into my life, I think, in the lives of others as I'm doing that. But so what an honor and a pleasure it has been to have you with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Good talking with you, Joe.
Oh, you too. And I look forward to hearing you speak next month at Taylor University. And let's just get
Great.
that out there again. Taylor University's professional conference. I think it's July 24th and 25th. Yes.
25th. Uh-huh.
Yes. And you can go to Taylor University's professional writers course. It's $79 for 2 days. It
Yeah.
is jam packed. And they also videotape, and you
Hmm.
also get the recordings afterwards so that you can, because you can't attend everything, but you can
Right.
go through everything. And it is just one of the most wonderful events as a person who's looking to write that I have ever attended. So I'm
Well,
so loving what you guys are continuing to do. And I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana, so I'm not really far from
okay.
where
You're
it was.
not far at all. Great.
Yes. So, but I'm going to enjoy sitting home like I am right now. I
Yeah.
have my slippers on.
I've got
And,
my cargo shorts on below
yeah,
my nice button-down shirt.
yes, me too. Me too. So it's one of the great things that you can do when you're doing something online like
It
that. So,
is. It is.
yeah. So you want to just give everybody the website again where they can get more information about you?
Sure. It's jameswatkins.com. And I've got new content every week. Um, I've
And
got
you
stuff
do.
on, I try to keep it current. I've got stuff on the race issues called A White Christian Answers Charge of Supremacy and Privilege. I think this next week I've got one on Were the Founding Fathers Christians. Um, so I try to have things that are relevant, but also a lot of good information, just to give you a hope and humor for the day.
Yes, and you
So
do it so
you
well.
go to my Facebook. I have at least 2 or 3 entries, funny cartoons and stuff like that.
Yeah,
James Watkins on Facebook.
on Facebook. Okay, great.
Great.
Well, please say hello to your family.
I will do that. Thank you.
I'm so grateful that you took the time out today to spend it with us,
My pleasure. My pleasure.
and hang on, because